So in this video, I'm going to show you how to use the food inventory sheet, which is right here, this link right here. This is the most important aspect or element of this entire system. This is really the details, the nuts and bolts, so to speak, of everything that you see here. All of these graphs and metrics are all based on what food is stored in this inventory sheet. So we're going to click here. This is the nuts and bolts, or the, meat and potatoes, so to speak, of this PrepperNerd inventory system. This is your inventory, okay? This is all the details. So this is the most fundamental aspect of this system, and everything else is built upon it. And what we've done here is made this system, more powerful and more friendly and easy to use, and more informative for you by using the software that we're using, as opposed to Microsoft Excel or Google Sheets, for example. Now on this sheet, what's really important, I'm going to start it off here with the category column. Okay, the category, all this is a way of describing how you think about your food. So I'm not going to tell you what categories to use. When you signed up for this, you should have been asked in the setup form, what categories you want to use, and those categories should be reflected here. So again, this is how you think about your food. Now, how I have my food categorized makes sense to me, right? Because when I go back to the dashboard, right, the calories, or days on hand based on calories, by these different categories, this is what makes sense to me. The stored days of units on hand, or servings on hand, based on servings. These are the categories that make sense to me. But you might have fewer categories, or you may have more categories, or you may just have different categories. So it really is. Don't get hung up on that my categories may not make sense to you. Well, think about what makes sense most to you. So again, we're going to go back into the stored food, and all this is you're just going to give each food a category. You're going to assign one category to each food, and that's what tells the system how many calories you have for that category, how many servings you have for that category. The next field is the description field. It is what it's pretty intuitive what that means. I would just, a word of advice is, I would start the description with the actual food type. And I haven't necessarily done a good job of this, consistently, but like you can see here, this is what I'm talking about. Here I start with oatmeal, and then I get a little more descriptive, and then I give a brand name. It's helpful, I've found, and I'm trying to correct my own records here, but it's helpful to be able to see right up, like at the leftmost of the column, like the type of food that it is, all lined up like this, as opposed to like Quaker 1 minute oatmeal, right? Then the word oatmeal is kind of buried in that. So when you scroll through, it makes it harder to find what you're looking for, but there's other ways. This just is a best practice. Storage area, you were asked in the setup form whether you wanted to capture and track storage area, storage container, and storage container name. These three are really helpful for someone like me who doesn't have necessarily a prepper pantry where I'm rotating through food, just using visually what's in front in the pantry versus what's in the back. I'm storing my food in bins, and I've got bins and buckets all throughout my house. So it's really important to me to understand, to know where things are, how it's stored, and in the case of bins, what those bins are labeled as. I've got tape on them with the bin name written on them. Best by date, you were also asked in the setup form whether you want to track best by dates. So as you buy more food, and as you're adding it to your inventory system, you just log the best by date, and it calculates the days until best by date, and that's what goes into this this graph here, which has been helpful for me because, if you're too overweighted on short-term items, like if there's past date, now, it's just a frame of reference, right? We all know that. But, it is helpful to know, whether you're overweighted on short-term items, medium-term items, or long-term items, for example. So back into the stored food. And then next is how is the serving measured, right? So in the case, you can just see, refried beans, 1 serving. If I look on the can, the label on the can, 1 serving is a half a cup, right? If I look at black beans, 1 serving is a half a cup. If I look at a Snickers, 1 serving is a bar. If I look at beef, I've got a serving as 4 ounces, right? So then the next column here is package quantity. How many packages do you have of that item, right? So in this case, I've got butter powder. A serving size is 1 tablespoon. I've got 3 cans of it. Next column, servings per package. I've got, each can contains 204 servings according to the label. I just get that right off the label. And each serving has 35 calories, again, right off the label. So again, serving size, 1 tablespoon. I've got 3 cans of it. Each can is 204 servings. Each serving is 35 calories. And then the rest of these gray columns are calculated. So I've got 612 total servings, which is just package quantity times servings per package. Total calories, which is total servings times calories per serving. And then the days on hand, which is the total calories divided by the number of calories that my family requires per day, which is actually entered on another sheet I'm going to show you. But this right here is the foundation of all of the food storage and the graphs on the dashboard. Some prior testing users have started with kind of trying to understand what's on the dashboard before understanding the inventory sheet. So I thought it was really important just for you to see how the information is captured at a detailed level before we start looking closer at the summarized level, which is on the dashboard. Now I want to show you a couple of really helpful features with this inventory log. The first is filtering. You see this says filter is off. If I click that, it drops down and you see all of these filters that you can apply to your list. So this first group of filters, BBD, and then something, means best by date and the amount of time. So best by date is less than a year away, and it filters specifically for everything that's where the best by date is within a year. Best by date greater than 3 years. This is everything that I have that has a best by date of over 3 years. For example, all of these that start with the word category, these are obviously the foods that you have for that specific category. So if I go breakfast, then here's all my breakfast items. If I say meat, here's all my meat items, right? And then down below, we've got filters for category, container, storage area. So that is a really helpful way to kind of dig into specific categories or specific best by date ranges, etc. So I'm going to unfilter that, filter off. I also want to just mention that you can always use Control F on your keyboard to search for something in your sheet. So I could try to search for rice, and it'll take me to, in this case it found rice and pasta. I think if I highlight the description field and search, then it'll find the word rice in the description field. So that's also very helpful. You'll also notice that there's some colored cells. Yellow just means that it's approaching its best by date. I think the setting is within 6 months. Red is that it's approaching within, I believe, 3 months. And a little bit darker red that you see here is because the system is expecting a value there and you haven't provided it. So it's highlighting that, you might want to fill in that value. Like here, I don't have measures for any of these items, but in this case it's okay. The items themselves don't really indicate how many measures each container has, or how it's measured. So that's a helpful way to use this sheet. I just wanted to point out specifically, most importantly, the filtering option here. So that's how you use the food inventory sheet, which is really the most important sheet in the entire system. But before you get started adding food to your food inventory, I want to show you two very important sheets where you're going to enter your family's caloric needs and the number of servings per day per person that you want to be able to eat from your food preparation if the situation were needed for you to rely upon it.